There we go. All right. So I think hopefully we're streaming all right. Just waiting on YouTube to kick in, and it has kicked in. So what's going on, guys? Donnie Rouse here, and I wanted to share something with you. I was going to initially come on and talk about boundaries because boundaries literally they affect all of our life and they affect how we go after our goals because depending on what we're allowing to come into like our emotional space, this space or aura that literally surrounds us, will kind of sometimes decide or choose what we go after because we're kind of spreading out our feelings. So this one is called Body Intelligence. Hi guys, my name is Donnie Rouse, and you are listening to the podcast One Life. Body Intelligence. There's an intelligence within you that has all the answers. You've probably heard people say, trust your gut. But what exactly does that mean? Sometimes the mind could get a little bit tricky. The mind could point us in directions and make us go and pursue things that aren't necessarily aligned with us. And the reason it does this is because there's belief systems. There's like ways in which we are, what's the word I'm looking for? We are told, we're trained to say this is what we should go after. But our body always knows. You can say it's your gut, but it's kind of like this cellular response that's pulsating and vibrates. It knows the things that make you feel alive. It knows the things that are make you feel bad. But how often do you actually tune into that gut instinct? How often do you tune in to that intuition that is guiding you and will never steer you wrong? Not to say that there isn't sometimes conflicts in it. So the point of this podcast, initially I was going to come on here and I was going to talk about boundaries, but I scrapped that because I thought that this would be more helpful, and mainly because I literally had just used this tactic to make some steps forward in my business in the production of my espresso. It's been an ongoing task that I've been working on for at least the last like 6 months, probably like years though. And before I get there, I want you to tune into your body. Like, what are some areas where you feel challenged? And I want you to just write everything down on a piece of paper, as well as the decisions, the different paths that you can take where maybe you're feeling some confusion. After you've written down that list, I want you to look at each individual item. And as you read that line item out loud, I want you to check in with your body. I want you to put your hand on your heart and just feel. As you read it, notice how you feel. Do you feel inspired? Do you feel fear? Do you feel expansion? Do you feel contraction? These are just some of the cues that your body will give you, the intelligence your body will give you as to what kind of action you should take. I was dealing with this myself. So I've been literally, sometimes I feel like it's one step forward, one step backward. And primarily with my business, because there's these belief systems that I'm trying to break down about the business in terms of what growing the business means for my life and the freedom and all the things that I want. I'm smiling right now because as I say this, I'm literally thinking about traveling around the world somewhere. But there were things that I needed to get done. And so I was literally writing on a sheet of paper all the different possibilities that I could take initiative for and take an action. Some of them included my podcast, hiring a consultant to help me grow the audience. Other things included things pertaining to my business, such as, connecting with my lawyer, getting this NDA, connecting with a supply chain management consultancy that will help me find a co-producer and do the supply chain stuff, as well as someone for branding. So there were all these items that I put on steps that weren't yet complete that needed an extra action to move them forward. As I was looking down this list, as I'm saying looking down this list, this was a mental thing I was doing. I was kind of like scanning the things that I needed to get done and just checking in with my body. I'm saying, well, how does this feel? I was going to email one of the consultants that I worked with in the past on the podcast and say, hey, do you know anyone who specializes in growing an audience? But I was feeling in my body, well, is that the change? Is that what I need to do right now? And I didn't feel expansion. I felt like it was more of a contraction. When it came down to my business, when it came down to reaching out to this lawyer, when it came down to reaching out to this consultancy firm, these are things that I was more fearful of, that I didn't want to do. If I'm honest with you, I was actually avoiding them. But when I felt into my body and said, okay, well, what is my body feeling when I think about reaching out to this person and taking the next step? What does my body feel when I have to email this consultancy, look into it, and figure out what the next steps are? It wasn't contraction. It was actually expansion. See, your mind can get in the way, making worst case scenarios. But deep down, there's an intelligence within you that knows all the answers, and knows the step forwards, and knows the next thing you should do towards your own fulfillment, towards your own happiness. But sometimes it's difficult to hear that voice, because when your mind is so loud, that intuition is very faint. Sometimes when the mind's loud, you don't even know what's going on in your body. Like your heart could be racing all over the place because you're feeling anxious about something. And the last thing you feel like you want to do is calm down and check in. Because your body's just like going crazy. But if you want to stop that, you really have to take control of where it is that you're putting your focus. You got to bring your presence back to that breath and really tune in as to how things are feeling. What is the next path forward? What is the next step? So let's go back to your life. What are some of the things that you want to do? We'll make it easy. An area of your life where you feel a little bit stuck. In list format, I want you to write down all the options that are available to you. Don't try not to overthink it. Literally just put it on a piece of paper. After you've done that, go through each line item. And when you go through the line items, I want you to say, do you feel a contraction or expansion? Do you feel inspiration or fear? Do you feel stifled or liberated? For each into one, and I think you'll be surprised at some of the answers you're going to get as a result. I certainly was. But it's often like the path of least resistance, right? Your mind can resist. Like my mind a lot of the time will resist all these things that I know I need to do. But then there's times where all of a sudden, like the easiest, which I know is the next step I should take while I'm resisting it. The step just comes easy. And now I'm in a different place, because with that new decision, with that new action, all of a sudden, all these new experiences are going to come in. It's going to give you more clarity. You might meet someone who's going to take you further down that path. All options are available, but it first requires you to tune into yourself, and it requires you to take action. Nothing happens inside of a vacuum. I love that quote. Nothing happens. Inspiration doesn't happen inside of a vacuum. You have to get beyond and out of your comfort zone. Doing that requires you making new decisions, taking new actions. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you really do the exercise. At the very least, even if you don't take any of the actions, I think it'll be very powerful for you just to feel in your body and to know that there is a presence within you that is working for you and for your greater good. And once you become aware of that, now all of a sudden, all these little day-to-day decisions, you could literally feel your way through them and allow yourself to guide yourself. If you enjoyed this podcast, I consider please subscribing to the podcast. You can ask a question, comment by visiting www.donnierouse.com. Again, www.donnierouse.com. And lastly, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you got some benefit from this, and I appreciate you tuning in. because you could be doing anything else, and there's so much things that are literally vying for your attention, but you chose to be here with me, and hopefully I was able to deliver some value to you that'll help you move down the path of going and creating the life that you were meant to live, because I believe that every single one of us was given a gift. Every single one of us has a uniqueness to us that we have to bring out into the world. And it is up to us to take control of our focus and to move in that direction. I also believe that life was meant to be enjoyed, and that when you are the happiest, that's how you know you're on the right path. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you get one life. Live it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again next week.